G'day boys and girls and welcome. My name's TSDS and this is the part 2 to the mouseball game where I will go into Unity and show you a little bit behind the scenes of what I've been kind of doing. So this is actually the main menu, or in reality I suppose this is the main menu. Now the way this works is that you've got the canvas which is displaying the buttons and then the actual background image. Now I'll give a forewarning for this video. I knew almost nothing about Unity and really almost nothing about C#, which is the language that we coded in, or that I coded in beforehand. So if there are any very obvious glaring mistakes, keep in mind that everything I've done here is a case of me Googling things for myself, trying to work things out, which I get it that you can learn best when you learn on your own and stuff, but at the same time there's no way to know, did I pick up any bad habits or did I do anything really bad. There's a few lines of code which I was using for a long time, and then as I was Googling I then discovered that apparently that line of code is very unoptimized, so I had to use a new line of code. But so there's loads of stuff that could be like that, which we'll have a look at anyway, but just keep in mind that I'm not an expert, and at the beginning of the 2 months of this project it was really a case of the 5 of us just sit at a computer and we're Googling how to make a game. It was a little bit kind of ridiculous. So what happens here is that you've got your main camera is looking this way and the canvas is all the time projected on top of it. Now we did actually have a really nice animation made by our artist, but that wasn't something I was able to get into the game. Now I can actually show you what it looks like here. If I press play, now the leaves come in, and the idea with that was that, and also the leaves will go on this other one. When you press play to load a level, our game designer wanted it so that the leaves will come in over the screen, and then when the level loads the leaves will kind of go away. Now that wasn't something I was able to actually get working. Ignore the fact that this is black, the video should be transparent. But the main problem is that the video, from what I can find, has to be attached to a 3D object, and then you can't put a 3D object on a canvas. So even if I get the black working correctly so it's transparent, the canvas is still going on top. So this wasn't something that I was ever able to fix. So this 3D object here, it's actually just a panel thing that I've made very kind of flat. It doesn't actually even matter if it's flat, I don't think. It could just be, no, it can't be just a straight panel. I don't know. Anyway, so that was that. And the way that this main menu works is it's actually just a bunch of slides in a way, and that when you click on one button, what's happening, like if I click on the settings button, it's disabling this main menu panel and it's enabling the audio panel, and that's basically how it works. So you click on the different buttons, you've got them kind of set up. So here you've got all the buttons for the different levels. They've got some stuff on them, they're sending to the right levels and things. And let's actually take a look at an actual level now. So we're going to the scenes and let's have a look at scene 1. No, we don't need to save. So this is scene 1. Now as you can see, you can't see it. This is the game view down the bottom all the time, so this is what the player would see. But this is the thing, that the canvas is actually really large because it's like a 1080p canvas at the moment, but we can zoom in on the actual level. So the level is down here. Now I did say in the first game that the mouse is animated, and the way the mouse is working is that there's actually underneath the level some secret other mice, and what's happening is that when you knock into a block or something, it's actually taking the texture from one of these mice and having it as the player texture for a certain amount of time before reverting back to the normal one. So that's also how the hard block works, is that when you hit it once, it finds this game object that's in every game and takes its texture. This was something that I think actually one of my teachers helped me to kind of do. Not to do this was kind of my solution to it, because we couldn't really necessarily work out an easier way. And for this it doesn't really kind of matter. So we've got our blocks, we've got our floor. Now the floor is something that I think is probably quite inefficiently built, and the way this works is that we've got each individual game object is a 1x1 of this floor. This is a 1K texture as well. And I just built the level out of these. So if I click this, you can see these are all of the floor panels, and the leaves are all of these outside ones. This is something that I don't think is too efficient because I don't know how resource intensive it is to have loads and loads of game objects like this, even if they're like really basic. They have like almost nothing attached to them other than the mesh renderer. So I don't know. So this is like the first level. You've got the main the canvas is attached to the main camera, so this is how you can scale the game screen, and the canvas will kind of stay with it, which is nice, because actually that was one thing that didn't actually get fixed for a long time because I wasn't quite sure how to kind of like get it to work. Now the camera will follow the player. If we actually look at the player, this is all of the player control script, and we can actually have a look at that. I'm not going to go really too in depth of the script because I think it's really kind of boring to look at. So we've got a lot of public text. And now this is another thing. I've still got that cough, sorry. That I think is not so efficient. The actual font in our game, the way this is working, how you've got score in the pink and yellow, it's actually two different text kind of like objects, and the information is just being sent to both of them, and it's the same information to both of them, so that allows me to kind of make it have that sort of like cool shadowy type effect with a different color. Now I don't know, can you fix that from just having a different font? This is just a free font that I found online to use, but I don't know, is there another way in Unity where you can do like proper shadowing and make it look nice? So this is one thing that I think is not efficiently done, but it's done in the case of I don't know a better way. So you can see here we've got score text and score text black. Now originally I had the the shadow color as being black, so that's why these are called black. So the black just references the shadow. So we've got like time multiplier black and final score text, game win text. So there's a lot of shit there. Now we have all the audio clips. So these are all the sounds that are getting used. Now these are actually just references to the sounds. So this is like, well, I'm not going to actually explain all the code to you because I don't think that's necessary. So basically we set up a lot of references to a lot of stuff at the beginning. Then in the start function, so this happens right at the beginning, we do a few things. We're setting like all of the UI elements of the game to false, and we're setting that the normal kind of level UI is true. Well, actually no, this is working it so it's showing the level UI, so that when you play a game, that's not Unity. When you press play, it will show the level 1, and then it will disappear after a few seconds. So what's happening is that in the canvas we have a level number UI which is starting off being displayed, and the normal stuff is not being displayed. Either the pause button is gone as well, and then after a few seconds it'll swap those over. So actually in the code, what's happening is it's setting everything to false except the level number UI, and then it's calling something which will set that to false and put the normal game UI to active after a while. These are actually these are the texture finder things. So here it's finding the sound manager game object, so that's where all the sounds getting played through, or some of them, most of them anyway. And here it's then finding the game object, so it can reference the materials. So it's like texture holder mouse normal equals game object.find texture holder mouse normal. So now if we go into the Unity, you can see somewhere texture holder mouse normal. So it's this one. So it's finding that block, and then it's keeping it as a kind of a reference, and it's doing the same to the others. Then we have nothing's going on in update, fixed update. This is where it's starting to get more into just the work of it. So this is very interesting, I guess. This one little line here, this is deciding or finding out whether or not you're playing the game on a desktop or playing the game on a phone. So if the device is desktop, then it controls this way. Otherwise, with this else, like do this. No, sorry, it's down here. Else, yeah. Otherwise, do some other control. And this is where the gyro controls kind of are. But again, we've never been able to test that, so I have no idea how kind of like well they work. There's a lot of kind of stuff here. This isn't really like anything really to go into. What's happening when you like win the game, collecting the acorns. You hit a wall and you hit a regular block. So when I actually said about how the amount of knockback you get is depending upon how hard you hit, this is what happens when you hit an actual regular block. So first it's calling mouse impact. Now mouse impact is just something that's like playing the mouse sound. Then it's getting an int called magnitude, and it's making a vector 3 from the contact point. Now this is how we solve the issue of the knockback bouncing you back in the wrong direction. Now it's actually finding that contact point. So contact point equals call.contacts. Blah, blah. I don't know. Some of this I don't necessarily understand too well. It's more of a case of for this stuff I think I got it from just helping on Google. It's making a force, which is the transform position minus the contact point. So that's how you get the kind of like the vector or something. I don't know. Whatever. Stuff is happening. There's a bit of like magic going on here. Now, anyway, if the travel power is less than 2, then magnitude equals 4,000, and it's adding force to the object in minus force, which is actually the opposite direction. So that's how you get it to bounce you back in the opposite, times delta time times minus magnitude. So this is I'm not going to explain it. At the same time, it's hard for me to explain some of this because it's like I've got to get my head around what's exactly going on. Because again, some of this code was stuff that I wrote at the beginning as well, so it's been kind of a while. The minus magnitude, what is that? Like I don't know. This is something to do with it knocking you back in the opposite direction anyway. And the delta time is so that it kind of happens over time. It doesn't like get all bugged out. Now the travel power is actually the velocity of the ball. So if the velocity, when you're playing the game, you can go from about 0 to about 3.2, 3.3 is the kind of like the max on just the current speed settings that we have. So if it's under 2, then it doesn't do anything. If it's over 2 and less than 3, then it adds some force, and the magnitude is like double, so it's a bit more noticeable. And else, if it's less than, or if it's equal to or greater than 3, then it's a bit more, and it does some like bit more knockback. Now, when it comes to actually breaking the block, if the travel power is 2.5 or if it's greater than 2.5 and less than 3, then it's sending a message to the block that it's a weak hit. Now, if we open the block one, we go to where is the scripts? Oh, I'm in scripts. Where am I? Block regular. Okay. Now, so it's sending a message to the block which has this code. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this again, but it's basically then calling, okay, do this. Send points back to the player that you've gained this point, set the score text, play the block sound, and then kill the block, which is just destroying the game object. So that's a weak hit if it's between 2.5 and 3. If it's over 3, then it sends the powerful hit. And you've got the same again for what's happening when you've got a bouncy block. This time instead it's playing a random bounce sound, an exploding block. These are like sounds for picking up the acorn. This is the sound manager for, this is the mouse sound. So this is when you bounce into it, it's doing a random sound between mouse squeak 1 to mouse squeak 10. And what's happening there is it's actually displaying I'm trying to think. Where is the sound manager? Let's open that. What's happening is the pitch of the sound effect is adjusted by plus or minus 5%. So that will give you a variation of the same sound. This is something that's quite good to use, I think, when you've got like only maybe one sound effect and you want to try and like lower the repetition of it, because if you keep hitting it, you'll notice that it's slightly different each time. We've got some other stuff here going on. These are some like coroutines that are like waiting to do stuff. Mouse happy, yeah. So there's quite a bit here. That's just the player control script anyway. There's quite a few different scripts that are doing different things. So I was busy. So let's have a look at a bit more of a bigger level. Let's go to like level 6. Let's save. So level 6, it has the same thing going on with the little mouse textures underneath the map. Here now, this level actually has invisible walls on it because you can go up in the air. So the let's find them. Where are they? Block wall, invisible. Now these, you can see, that's the invisible walls, and there is a roof on top, so that's where the roof is. Now this is where again something comes to it about the efficiency. Now in the first few levels where I'm building everything like tile by tile, okay, maybe that's okay to render, there's not that many. On this level, like, where are we? The leaves. Look at this. This is kind of ridiculous. Like, these are all individual textures. Now I've had to do it, it's like 15 blocks out, because you can get knocked high enough that you can see the outside of the area, which we don't want. And you could actually see in the video where I played this, I think I hit 2 exploding blocks at once, so I got knocked higher than you kind of normally should maybe. which allowed me to kind of like see a little bit there. That's a case of like, that's not going to happen too often maybe, but this is a thing where I think this can't be very efficient to do. Now, the solution to this, one thing that I would think is maybe better, is that you would make one game object like from here to here, and it'll be like a big square, and then that's just one game object, and then you tile the thing. So if I would like take, I'm going to duplicate one of these tiles, and I'm going to take it out, put it over here, and show you what I mean. So the scale, okay, this is 50. Let's take it to like 1000. How big is that? By Y 1000. That's the scale, right? Yeah. That's kind of weird. All right, let's oh yeah, sorry, I got thrown. I was thinking, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so I'd imagine that what I should do to be more efficient is to build these kind of blocks using these like bigger ones that would fit like the whole kind of way there. Now the problem there, okay, we don't want the leaves to be that big, so what we'd have to do is we'd have to go into the leaf tile, and we go, okay, tiling. If I do tiling 2, it's put 2 copies of that in there. And if I do tiling that way, it's done that, but that's still not enough. So we add this about like, what do I do this, like 100? Maybe 50. Let's do 50 by 50. It's a bit too small. Now, what it's doing, there's actually, I think, 6 or so different leaf textures, so this is only affecting one of those. But if for example this would look okay, maybe it's still not 50, maybe it's like 25 by 25. That's probably about it. If it's like this, okay, this looks okay, but it applies that same 25 by 25 to every other one. So I would have to make a new material for every kind of like new shape, which I guess maybe it makes it more efficient in terms of there's less game objects being rendered, but I think it also makes it a lot more work for me to keep kind of building them. Now you could just do, for example, one big block that's maybe like big enough that you can just have it be okay, just whack it there and then it's done. But the problem that it has, let's make it lower down so we can actually see what's going on. There's the pits, so the pits have holes in them, so if I would do that, then I can't cut that texture out because it's one big game object. So yeah, it's a bit of a kind of like annoyance, but I think this is one thing where I just don't have the kind of the knowledge to do things more efficiently, to say the least. So that's one problem. Now if we look at the pits themselves, how these work is that down the bottom of this pit you have a game over pit, which is this very, very small thing, and this is just a trigger that when the player touches that game object, goes inside it, it then triggers so you've lost the game. So that's how you can fall all the way to the bottom of the pit before it tells you that you've lost the game. Now at the top of the pit we've got a depth trigger, and now what this does is this is just slightly indented, you can see, and when the player touches this it removes the velocity of the player ball. So this prevents you from being able to kind of like roll over smaller pits. And this also means that the only way you're ever going to touch this is if you're already kind of in the pit. So if you're that deep in the pit, you've fallen in, like, so you're done. Otherwise you're not going to notice this. So we can actually, let me go to a level where it's got a bit more of an actual, well, let's go to the main. This is the testing one, we can do it in here. So this is some dirty test area. So if I roll over this, I can get in. Oh, I've touched it, and I've gone in. This lighting is actually just a bug within Unity, I think. So that's how basically the pits work. And the goals, I'll go back to like level 3 or something. The way the game wins pit work is that you've got a very, very small thing there, just in the middle. And when you touch that, then you win. But that's probably most of the stuff. Like, you can see actually this texture has still been fucked because I guess I don't think I saved it. Oh no, I didn't save the scene, but I've changed the actual thing. Where is the tiling? Put that back to 1. There we go. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's much else really to go on now, or like to talk about. We've got sound manager, we've got the event system. Well, the event system, that's just nothing really. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it really. So obviously there was a lot of work done in this game. Like I learned a lot about the scripting. Like this player controller script was, I mean, it's not that long, I think, in terms of like in reality. Like the normal scripts are like probably super long, but it was long for me. It was long for my first kind of like real game project. It just kept growing. But again, I think there's some things in here that aren't done very efficiently. But I just don't know a different kind of way to kind of like do stuff. So that, I guess, is the behind the scenes of Mouseball. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for taking an interest. And I shall see you next time, I guess. So now I'm done. I'm off for like 2.5 months. So I'm thinking what I might try and do is build like a pool game or something if I have the free time. Just kind of like play around or something. But we don't start school again until I think next August. And then we'd be second year students. And I think they're going to do some more coding stuff next year. There's a new class coming in that's primarily focused on the design and coding. So I'm going to try and get into that, which should be nice. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.